Hello, welcome back to the Sing Confidently Live Creatively podcast. Creatives, I'm so excited to get into today's episode. Estelle here, by the way. We're gonna go ahead and dive into if you are a Gen Z or millennial singer. Okay, I'm 26, born 1998. So I guess I'm Gen Z, but I kind of grew up with a lot of millennials, so I feel sometimes I guess some people call it zillennial, right? Yeah. So, but if you are in that range, especially, I feel like you'll really relate to this episode because if you don't feel confident in your singing, this is something like we're gonna dive into why this might be. Okay, I'm gonna say might. This may be why. Okay, because I have felt that lack of confidence in my singing, and this is something that has factored into it. So that's what we're going to dive into today, as well as some things that have helped me to combat it and that I want to suggest for you as well. If this aligns with you, if you feel like you can relate to not feeling confident in your singing, especially as a Gen Z millennial singer, and this kind of aligns with you, we are creatives. We are created by a God who loves us. Like, I believe, and I know with all my heart, we have a God who loves us, who is the creator himself. And sometimes we lose sight. It's easy to lose sight of who he is and who he's made us to be. And especially if you're a young adult like me, young adult, or adult kind of in your 30s, maybe most of the people listening to this, I know based on the stats, most of you are female and most of you are in your 18 to 20 something, maybe 30s as well, I believe. So if that's you, let me know because this is definitely for you and you'll probably relate to this because the thing that is possibly, probably, potentially adding to your lack of confidence singing is comparing yourselves to other singers, specifically on social media. I know everyone likes to make social media the enemy at times, but and I'm not trying to make it the enemy. You guys know that I love talking about how to put yourself out there and express yourself as an artist using social media, using online tools, right? I'm totally for that and in support of that. However, I've noticed in myself, and I know that this um is probably possibly the case with other singers, which is that it's very easy to compare your voice to other singers on social media, with the rise of TikTok, especially, and all these riff challenges and, belting and all these videos where you hear all these different vocal tricks and flips and all the things. It's like, whoa, there are so many beautiful voices out there, which I totally support and cheer them on for putting themselves out there. However, if you're not in the mindset of really feeling confident and secure in your own voice, sometimes that can weigh on you. Like, am I right or am I right? Come on, it can weigh on you, and if you're listening to other people sing, you're like, oh, my voice can never be that good. Like, I can never go that high. Oh, I can never belt belt that well. I can never belt that note out for that long. And it's like, well, maybe you can't right now, but honestly, singing is a skill that you can develop. A lot of the most people can develop the skill of singing to be a little bit more than where it is right now. Absolutely, you can. Absolutely, you can if you put in the work. Okay. And so let's get into this and the why behind it and what can you do instead if you're feeling like you're struggling with this comparison on social media as a singer, especially if you are in my age group, you probably have seen these TikToks with these riff challenges and all that stuff, right? It is my personal opinion that it's very easy to go on TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Instagram, and not only see singers putting themselves out there, which is beautiful. And I completely 1000% will always support singers putting themselves out there. However, it's also very easy to hear voice teachers, right, giving their tips and reacting to singers. And you see how they're reacting to those singers, and you're like, oh, I just feel like my voice could never do that. Like, you compare your voice to those singers who are performing on stage or maybe doing this thing in their room or whatever. And it's like, it's so easy to compare yourself to those students. And I would just suggest like taking everything with a grain of salt, because you might see voice teachers telling the singer to do this thing and like saying like, oh, I would tell this student to do this exercise or to do this. And then you might go and try it and it doesn't quite help you in the same way then that voice teacher said it would work, said that it might work for that person. And I just want to let you know that every single student is different. Like the voice teacher might tell you, and they might be saying something that's actually really helpful for some students, for some singers, for some voices. But like I said at the beginning, we have a creator who created each one of us with our own creative talents and with our own unique abilities, right? And your voice is unique to you, right? And so that's why like I hesitate even to like give like tips and stuff online sometimes, although I do it on my podcast all the time. But you guys, I always try to give a disclaimer that this works for my voice. It might work for me, but I suggest getting with a teacher or a coach, right? Because your voice is very different from mine, probably. And it might not work for your voice and for where your voice is and for where you are physically, mentally, vocally, right? So I just say take everything with a grain of salt. Um, so, but getting back to this, that was kind of a little tangent, but getting back to this, it is very easy to compare yourself on social media to other singers, right? And how they're sounding. So, I want you to know, first of all, that you're not alone. I'm speaking from my own experience that I know how it can be very easy to listen to these runs and these belting and all the belting and the vocal tips and tricks, and it can make you question whether your own voice is good enough. I want you to know you're not alone in that feeling. You're not alone in that comparison. You're not alone in that experience. I felt that same way. I'm sure many others have. And so my first tip would be to take every single singing tip, vocal tip with a grain of salt, because not everyone is the same. Not everyone's voice is the same. So absolutely take everything with a grain of salt that you hear online and see online with, singers, singing tips, voice teachers, myself included. Like take it with a grain of salt, because you might work with your voice teacher and that exercise doesn't really help you, or that, you might want to try it a different way that helps you more, right? So take everything with a grain of salt. So I was looking up some things because I was like, okay, like is I'm feeling like, it's very easy to compare on social media for singers, but I did just look up in general, like obviously we hear this all the time that, there is so much comparison happening on social media all the time. There's this comparison culture 2023 study with 1,000 participants between the ages of 16 and 24 in the UK. And they asked some series of questions related to social media comparisons. Their survey found that the profound impact social media can have on how young people aged 16 to 24, which is like Gen Z, view themselves. Around 9 out of 10 responded that they see themselves negatively and feel dissatisfied with their lives, right? So if you are, coming off of social media, seeing other singers and feeling negatively and dissatisfied with your voice, right? So I'm just making the correlation between general dissatisfaction and comparison with other people's lives. I'm just making that correlation between that and voices and singers. I haven't done any research in this. I'm just saying from my own personal experience, and I'm just comparing this to like just general social media comparison. There's clearly, it's clearly possible that you might feel that dissatisfaction with your singing voice, right? Just like anyone might feel with their life if they're looking at someone else's life on social media. If you're listening to someone else's, reel, you're watching their reel and them having this short clip of them singing this amazing riff, it might make you feel a little bit dissatisfied with your own voice, right? And I just want you to know you're not alone. I want you to know you're not alone. I want you to know that I've been there. And in addition to taking everything with a grain of salt, here are some things you can try differently. So the next time that you are on social media, the next time you are watching one of those, voice teacher reacts and you see them like cheering and hyping the singer on. You're like, oh, I can never do what that singer is doing. I can never belt that loud, that high, that beautifully. We all feel that at some point. Next time you're doing that, I want you to try what this article in it's on the National Institute of Health website, their publication website. It's this article um, titled Intervening on Social Comparisons on Social Media, Electronic Daily Diary Pilot Study. But they found that one of the things that they actually did was like one of their methods was that they had some of the members of the study watch an intervention video. And this intervention video was just like describing the skill of what is called social savoring. And social savoring, they describe as experiencing joyful emotions related to the happiness of someone else's experiences. So basically, like choosing to feel happy for someone else is how they're defining social savoring. So thinking about that, I was like, oh, social savoring. So that could mean that instead, next time you see one of those videos and you start to be aware of how you are feeling, if you start to notice you're comparing yourself and thinking, oh my gosh, I can never do that. And sometimes it's so quick, right? We just like are like, oh, whatever, I can never do that. And then we swipe on. I want you to try to pause and instead say, I love what that person did. Like instead, start to change it and like practice social savoring and start to feel happy for that person, for their voice. I love that they can do that with their own voice for them. Love that for them. Like, let that be your motto. Love that for you, girl. Love that for you. Love that for them. But for me, I have a different voice and I have a different journey moving right along. Right. So I know like this is like way deeper than just like having a mantra or motto. Like obviously there's like identity stuff tied in here I'm going to talk about in a second, but this is just like a very like simple thing you can do to kind of retrain your thoughts, retrain your thought patterns, right? Rewrite the story in your mind from like automatically comparing to be like automatically, wow, I love that for their voice. I understand my voice is different. So socially savoring someone else's voice by, feeling happy for their voice, but re-acknowledging and reaffirming that your voice is different. And that's a good thing. You have a unique voice and that's on period. And that means you have a unique journey as a creative, as a performer, as a singer, period. All right. So the next thing you can do, I'm just gonna, say this is off of the betterhelp.com website. They said statistics from 2021 indicate that hold on. Okay, I found it. So they said in this article, this is not like a study, but it's just an article on the website. Reducing social media use to 30 minutes per day may lead to lower levels of anxiety, depression, and loneliness, based on a study at Iowa State University involving 230 students, right? So these are college students, again, like that Gen Z area. Gen Z, depending on the time of that article. But basically they found that they scored lower in anxiety, depression, and loneliness, which we already know that is something that can come about when you're comparing yourself to other people, is those feelings of anxiety, depression, and loneliness. So we want to, just reduce how much they said reducing social media by 30 minutes a day. That's not, so that's something that we can think about is like reducing how much we are looking at those videos, right? I would say for TikTok, you can definitely cultivate your FYP, maybe like stop looking at those videos, like stop. And you can do the same thing on Instagram, I suppose. But TikTok is going away anyway. By the time this comes out, it might not even be there in existence. So anyway, the point is that reducing social media use, obviously, that's an obvious answer. But again, it doesn't really get to the deeper root of things. This last thing to try instead is getting to the deeper root of things. You already know what I'm going to say. Start with surrender. You got to turn to the creator of the creation of the creativity. Okay. So for me, and I'm also speaking from my personal experience, is that turning to God and really developing my relationship with God, starting with the maker of my voice, starting with the creator of my voice and knowing him more has really deepened my understanding of my identity as a human being, as a person, my value as a person in God's eyes, and how he created me, so loving me so much in my imperfections, in my flaws, and my sins, that he literally sent his son Jesus to die on the cross for my sins so I could have a beautiful relationship with him. He loves me that much. I'm that valuable to him. Oh my gosh, that's my identity. So for me, that's how I really have been able to lean into my identity. I don't do it perfectly. Sometimes I compare myself too. We're all human, right? We all are human. And whether you resonate with doing that or not at this point in your life, right? Everyone is different and in a different journey. But I really encourage you that going back to your creator as you, the creation who has a creative gift, like, man, going back to the creator and finding your identity in him really solidly, that has been essential for me. So that surrender aspect is what I always talk about. I always talk about like surrender, taking small steps of action. Those are like some of those beginner tips that I always like to talk about on this podcast. So if you don't know, there you go. Okay, starting with surrender. And then from there, are starting to develop that relationship with God, deepening that relationship with God, and therefore deepening your identity in who he has made you to be in Christ, right? And that relationship with God through Christ, deepening your identity and having that solid identity as a person, it really helps with this next aspect, which is falling in love with your voice and building confidence in your own voice, right? Because we already did the thing where we said, okay, this person has their voice and it's beautiful and I'm happy for them, but my voice is different. I have a different journey, right? We already said that. We already made that statement. We already kind of like started to change our way of thinking when we see other people's Instagram reels and TikToks, if that's still there, and videos and stuff of them singing. We've already rewritten that story of like, okay, we love that for them. We love that for them. And we have a different experience and we have a different voice, right? But when you have that solid identity and who you are, then you can really, 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 really start loving your own voice, right? Because once you've let go of that, you let go of, the other person's voice, like that's, you love that for them. Now start to love your voice for you. Start loving it for you. Love that for me, right? Love my singing for me. Love how that sounded when I sang that and I recorded myself and I listened back, right? Because I listened to Estelle and Estelle tells me to record myself and listen back. I talk about that a lot too. You got to record yourself, listen back to your voice. Okay. Start to, listen to your voice. Anyway, that's another topic. But, you start to fall in love with your voice and focus on building confidence in your own voice. Okay. So that is the last thing that I would say to try is to surrender to God, start to build that solid identity in who you are as a person. And from there, begin falling in love, building confidence in your own voice. Do the work of developing that confidence in your voice, of falling in love with your voice. And I have so many episodes on how to do that practically, starting to know your voice by recording and listening back to your voice, right? Starting to sing songs that you love, practicing how to set up your practice routine. I have many episodes on that. So go back and listen, but you got to do the work. You got to do the work and of building that confidence in yourself and growing and developing your own voice and even sharing it eventually. And you will be the one sharing your voice online and maybe even encouraging people not to compare their voices to you, right? So I know that it can be really, really hard when you are watching other people singing and they're doing, they have a beautiful head voice, beautiful mix. They have this gorgeous high range and lovely like vibrato, like everything seems perfect, or this beautiful like soulful riff or whatever. And it can feel overwhelming because you're like, you're not there yet. I want you to know, again, you're not alone. Take all of that with a grain of salt. And instead, again, practice social savoring. Say to yourself, I love that for them, but I have a different voice, and that's okay. You can also reduce social media use. Hey, like it works. It works. Okay. And then, of course, from my own personal experience, going to God and digging into your identity in Him, and from there starting to fall in love with your voice, building confidence in your own voice, um like with intentionally singing and listening to your voice and practicing, all of those things that we know that we ought to do, but we sometimes don't make the time for. So I want you to be encouraged that you don't have to keep staying in that like cycle of comparing and not feeling good about your voice. Like you can break that cycle, you can do something different. And I'm here to support you any way that I can. One of the ways that I want to do that is through the upcoming Sing Confidently workshop. Yes, in this workshop, we will be doing the work. We will literally be doing the work. I will take you through my 4-step process that I go through in the Sing Confidently course. Right. And the Sing Confidently course is always available for you. It's going to be, it's lifetime access. You get lifetime access to it. It's going to be discounted probably the week of that workshop. So plan how you're going to grab that course and get into the course. But in the workshop, we're literally going to go through the steps that I talk about in the course, some of them more in depth than others, but we're going to do the work of doing voice training, doing vocal exercises together. I'm going to show you the process of how to start expressing your voice and going through the process in depth, doing the work together to begin to build that confidence in your singing voice. So go to creativelybyestelle.com/studio. I invite you. Okay, you don't have to, of course, but I would love to see you there. Like I genuinely would love to see you there because I know that as we do this work together, you will begin to build confidence in your singing voice. I know that it's possible. And of course, I told you, take everything you hear with a grain of salt, certainly. And it might not be for everyone, and I might not be the coach for you, but if you relate to me, if you love listening to this podcast, if I have helped you in any way, like I might be the coach for you. I just might. And this is a free way to test that out and to see if this actually helps you. And I really, really believe it will. I pray that it will. I hope that it will. And I would just love to meet you and chat with you and hear you sing. Maybe if you want to be spotlighted and spotlit and do the spotlight coaching, which is completely optional, but you will do the work. You will do the work. You'll be muted on the call, of course. Like everyone can't be doing the vocal exercises unmuted at the same time, but we will be doing the work together and I'll be coaching you through it and supporting you in that. And I'm so excited to do that. So go to creativelybyestelle.com/studio. You can also go to the show notes below and click the link there. And I would really love to see you there. I invite you to join me. For this free workshop to help you begin to build confidence and to do the work to build confidence as a singer so that you're not comparing yourself on social media anymore. There's no need for that. There's no need. Go to creativelybyestelle.com/studio and I would love to see you there. All right, you guys, I'm so grateful that you listened today. Thank you for being here. Thank you for believing in your voice and believing in yourself. Thank you for trusting me to, look up these articles and chat with you and chat with you about my experience. I really appreciate it. You can always come to chat with me over at the free Facebook group, the Performing Arts Community on Facebook. It's free and you can come ask me questions, tell me what you thought of today's episode. But I would love for you to do one of these things today. Practice social savoring or be on social media less today, or maybe start with, going to God and developing that identity in Him and signing up for the Sing Confidently workshop. So those are some things that you can do, some takeaways that you can practically do today. And I hope that you will do that. I hope you will come over to the Facebook group and let me know that you did. All righty. I'll see you guys in I'll talk to you guys in the next episode and hopefully see you in the workshop coming up soon. And thank you so much again. Talk to you later. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode and to this show. I'm so in awe of you for being here and showing up for your creative gifts. That takes courage. Don't forget to join the Performing Arts community on Facebook for support and inspiration as you continue on your journey. If this episode helped or inspired you in any way, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts and share it with someone. It means so much. Thank you again, and don't forget to keep singing, acting, dancing, performing, and living creatively. Talk to you next time.